at the point of the sixth record now, the new album Food, and obviously that kind of leaves you with such a big kind of body of work, so many songs to go back and choose to play live. What is it like playing old stuff, playing tracks that you wrote when you were, just a kid, really?
Well, I mean, the first part is, God, what are the lyrics to the song? I'm like, what did I write? But then, I mean, it's sort of, I don't know, I think every body of work is so, I live so much in that moment that by the time I'm done, I am kind of removed from it.
Right.
So it's almost as though they're not mine anymore, which sounds odd, but it's just such another part. Songs I wrote when I was 17, 18, I couldn't even imagine what frame of mind to get myself in to write that right now.
Yeah.
So it's sort of just like some other chick wrote that. I'm just singing a song.
It's a cover.
It feels like it sometimes.
Okay. Well, tell me about some of the tracks on the new album. I mean, what kind of territory are we exploring there? Because I know we've got the new single Rumble, which has been described as talking about the grey area between love and hate.
Well, yeah, it's also just that kind of, you get to a point where you're content with your life and everything is great, and then, you've got this other person and you're kind of like, It's not so gray, though. It's kind of like, there's that sense of relief because that teenage angst is gone and you're settled, and so it's like, if you're with someone, you're with them because you want to be, not because you need to be.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of just like, I'm really glad you gave me back my keys to my apartment. Thank you for that.
Do you think that the kind of stuff that you're writing about has changed over the years? I mean, it must do for everybody.
I don't know if it's the kind of stuff, rather the perspective on the stuff.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, tell me about that.
I think the stuff, we all go through pretty much the same thing. I think it's kind of just like, as you get older, you either care more or you care less. You're either more upset or less upset about it. And I just think the way you approach the situations kind of, is what changes. But I think the situations are pretty much as they always are.
Okay. It seems like you've got quite a kind of even approach to the industry as well. I mean, what's your attitude to the record industry? Because that's changed a lot over recent years.
It actually, yeah, it has. That has changed more, I think, probably than anything else as far as, as this business goes. I mean, you roll with it, kind of, to a degree, without sort of like sacrificing yourself, I kind of stay. I'm going to do what I'm going to do regardless, and it's a blessing that people are still there to listen and care enough that I can be that sort of anti everything. But yeah, I mean, you have to be aware of the fact that yes, now it's a social media world, and everything is sort of at everyone's fingertips, whereas before things had a chance to build.
Yeah.
But you kind of, you acknowledge it, and then you sort of go about your life and do what you're going to do.
Well, the other day when we were talking on Six, you were talking about being signed to a new label over here, and the fact that, you like the fact that you could take a kind of reasonably off-the-wall idea, like taking your own food truck to cook out of to South by Southwest Festival to them, and they were just like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Is it important to you to kind of collaborate with people who share a similar mindset to you?
I mean, for sure, it definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
That's for, the first part. But I think, this is such a business of personality that I think, you really have to kind of be able to get in someone's face and look them in the eye and understand that, yes, you want to take this walk together. Because, it's big business, and you can get into business with people, and you really, by the end of it, you're like, why have we done this? And everyone's miserable. There's just no point, And so it is great to be able to have a relationship with, they're my partners, and it's nice that we can actually, we all want the same thing. We all want this to work for this reason, and, and just sort of everything that we encamp around it. I mean, yeah, it's great. And
how does that translate to working with producers? Because obviously, you're working with Dave Sitek on the new record.
I mean, he's brilliant and just perfectly strange, and like he's one of the things that was great about working with him was he's extremely decisive, and he's very clear and opinionated about how he feels and how he sees things. But it's interesting that he's able to really step back and then also allow you just to be and to breathe in it. And that's it's a strange dichotomy, but it's amazing that he's able to do that. And for me, it was great because, sometimes as an artist you need an editor and you need a wrangler, and sometimes you need someone to push. Sometimes you need someone just to step back and allow you to be. And so for this time in my life and for this record, he was great because he was clever enough and talented enough, but yet also kind of quiet enough when he needed to be and when I needed him to be. And so it was great. We had a really good relationship.
Would you think about working with him again?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Like, honestly, I had to stop. I was like, okay, because we would have just kept going. I mean, it was great.
Isn't there another? Haven't you done more stuff? There was another album.
Yeah. We started writing. We were recording so much that, I mean, like days would go by. And we would have like, we were doing 2, 3 songs, 4 songs a day. So, but then it started to sort of veer off into one direction, and so then we had all this other stuff that we did that we loved, but that didn't really go in this direction. So we were like, let's do another album. We've got a whole other album.
So is this the kind of like live album? What's the? Is there like an electronic album waiting to go?
Yeah, it was a lot more. I don't know. I guess it was more like, for lack of a better word, more like 90s, maybe like trip hop ish sort of.
I like the sound of that.
It was completely different though, which is why we were like, we can't have 70 songs on the album. Yeah.
That's the definition of a good problem, though, isn't it?
Right.
Too many awesome songs.
Way too many. But they were definitely, we started to veer off into one side, and then all the musicians started to come in, and it just became this whole other thing. So it was great.
Yeah. So the new album is called Food, and now you're a trained chef, and you have this kind of culinary arm to your career that's happening as well. I wonder how your approach in the studio and the kitchen compare to each other.
Well, I mean, they're great because they're both really, they lend to your creativity, so it's nice. But I think that, music writing is a lot more intellectual in the sense that you have to be prepared to think about your past and prepared to think about how that pertains to your future, and then kind of all of these things. You have to be very thoughtful and kind of like open, I think. Whereas food, I like food because it's so present. It's like right now, and so I can kind of let go of everything that happened before and not think about what's happening later. It's just about right now.
Okay.
Kind of shut off.
Okay. I mentioned the food truck that's going to South by Southwest, too. Obviously, you're going to be playing there as well.
Yeah.
Now, the other day when I asked you about that on the radio, I asked if the menu was ready, and you said yes, but you didn't say what was on the menu.
Oh, right.
Right?
Okay, fair enough.
Picking up, what are people going to be able to buy from your truck at South by Southwest? What are you going to be feeding
Very
people?
good. Well, I'm actually very excited about this, and I've actually worked through this menu a bit because I did some festivals in the past, so I'm like, I've got this now. So obviously, I'm going to make jerk ribs. They've actually become my specialty because I've had to make them so many times since this whole idea happened. So I'm making jerk ribs. I'm doing duck confit sliders with a ginger sesame glaze. I'm a saucier, so everything is kind of sauce-centered. And then I'm doing a shredded beef with a wild cherry barbecue sauce infused with espresso.
With wild cherry, as in play that funky music, wild cherry.
Exactly.
That sounds so perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. And what's next for you? I mean, we talked about working with Dave Sitek. Is there anybody else on your wish list that you like to get into the studio with? You have to work with?
You know what? Honestly, I kind of just take it as it comes. So many people I've worked with I would have never even had the thought to put on a list, and they've been some of the greatest experiences of my life. So, whoever's ready. I mean, let's do it.
And who would you say have been some of those people, some of your favorite collaborators?
Dave, for sure, is at the top of my list. Raphael Sadiq was, a great experience working with him. Bjork, loved working with her.
Yeah.
I mean, just had some really very full spectrum experiences.
I can imagine that the two of you would just get on incredibly well, because she's another person with this like voracious imagination. Like she's interested in everything, isn't she?
Yeah, she's amazing. So we always, we just have a good time hanging out too, so it just makes it easy.
Okay. And what about the gig tonight? Who's going to be, what's the setup on stage? How many of the...
Well, you have to listen in for the setup on stage later on when Kelis performs live. You can watch her on stage 1 today at 5 to 7. You can catch all that on the Six Music website. Lauren Laverne in the Talking Heads arena there, talking to Kelis.